Osama bin Laden was born on March 10, 1957, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He was the son of Mohammed bin Laden, a very wealthy businessman who owned a large construction company. His father's company built many important buildings in Saudi Arabia, including mosques, roads, and palaces. Osama bin Laden grew up in a rich family, but his father had many wives and children. Because of this, Osama bin Laden was one of many siblings, and his family was large. As a child, Osama bin Laden lived in Jeddah, a city by the Red Sea. He went to school there and later attended King Abdulaziz University. He studied business and engineering, but he was also very interested in religion. During his time at university, he met teachers who had strong religious ideas. These ideas influenced him deeply, and he started to believe that Muslim countries should be ruled by strict Islamic law. This belief would guide his actions in the future. In 1979, something very important happened in Afghanistan. The Soviet Union sent thousands of soldiers to control the country. Many people in the Muslim world saw this as a big problem. They believed that foreign soldiers should not be in Muslim lands. Some people decided to fight against the Soviet soldiers. This war was called the Soviet-Afghan War. Many young men from different Muslim countries traveled to Afghanistan to help. Osama bin Laden was one of them. At that time, Osama bin Laden was not a trained fighter, but he had money and connections. He used his wealth to support the Afghan fighters, known as the Mujahideen. He helped buy weapons, build training camps, and bring foreign fighters to Afghanistan. He also worked closely with other groups that were fighting against the Soviet Union. Some of these groups later became part of his own organization, Al-Qaeda. The United States and other countries also wanted to stop the Soviet Union. Because of this, they supported the Mujahideen. They sent weapons and money to help them fight. Some of this support reached Osama bin Laden and his fighters. At the time, the US government saw the Mujahideen as allies because they were fighting against the Soviet Union. The war in Afghanistan lasted for 10 years. In 1989, the Soviet Union withdrew its soldiers from the country. The Mujahideen believed that they had won a great victory. They thought that their fight had forced a powerful country to leave. This victory gave Osama bin Laden and others the idea that they could defeat any foreign power. However, after the Soviet soldiers left, Afghanistan did not become peaceful. Different groups of Mujahideen started fighting each other for control of the country. Osama bin Laden left Afghanistan and returned to Saudi Arabia. At this time, he was seen as a hero by some people because of his role in Afghanistan. However, he had new ideas. He believed that the Muslim world was being controlled by Western countries, especially the United States. He thought that foreign soldiers should not be in Muslim lands. This belief became stronger in 1990, when Iraq invaded Kuwait. The United States and other countries sent soldiers to Saudi Arabia to protect Kuwait and fight against Iraq. Osama bin Laden strongly opposed this. He thought that non-Muslim soldiers should not be in Saudi Arabia, which is home to Islam's holiest cities, Mecca and Medina. He spoke against the Saudi government for allowing US troops to stay in the country. Because of his opposition, Osama bin Laden got into trouble with the Saudi government. They saw him as a threat, so they took away his passport and tried to silence him. In 1992, he left Saudi Arabia and went to Sudan. In Sudan, he built training camps, businesses, and farms. He used his money to support fighters and plan attacks. During this time, Al-Qaeda became more organized. The group had members from different countries, and they believed that they were fighting to protect Islam. They saw the United States and its allies as their main enemies. While in Sudan, Osama bin Laden planned attacks against U.S. targets. In 1996, the Sudanese government was under pressure from the United States and other countries to remove him. He was forced to leave Sudan, so he returned to Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, he worked closely with the Taliban, a group that controlled most of the country. The Taliban gave him a safe place to live, and in return, he helped them with money and training. During this time, Al-Qaeda carried out attacks against the United States. One of the first major attacks was in 1998. Al-Qaeda bombed 2 U.S. embassies in Africa, one in Kenya and one in Tanzania. These attacks killed more than 200 people. After this, the U.S. government put Osama bin Laden on its most wanted list. They sent missiles to bomb his training camps in Afghanistan, but he survived. In 2000, Al-Qaeda attacked again. This time, they bombed a U.S. Navy ship, the USS Cole, in Yemen. 17 American sailors died in the attack. The U.S. government saw Osama bin Laden as a very dangerous man, but they could not find him. The biggest attack happened on September 11, 2001. On that day, 19 Al-Qaeda members hijacked 4 airplanes. They crashed 2 planes into the Twin Towers in New York City. A third plane hit the Pentagon, which is the headquarters of the U.S. military. The fourth plane was going to hit another target, but passengers on the plane fought back. The plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. Nearly 3,000 people died in these attacks. It was one of the worst terrorist attacks in history. After September 11, the U.S. decided to go to war. They demanded that the Taliban government in Afghanistan hand over Osama bin Laden. The Taliban refused, so the US and its allies sent soldiers to Afghanistan. They attacked the Taliban and Al-Qaeda camps. Many fighters were killed, but Osama bin Laden escaped. For nearly 10 years, the US and other countries searched for him. Some people believed he was hiding in the mountains between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Others thought he was living in cities under a different name. During this time, Al-Qaeda continued to carry out attacks in different countries. In 2011, U.S. intelligence found out that Osama bin Laden was living in a large house in Abbottabad, Pakistan. The house had high walls and no internet or telephone connection. It was designed to keep him hidden. On May 2, 2011, U.S. Special Forces carried out a secret mission to capture or kill him. They arrived at his house in helicopters at night. There was a short fight inside the house. Osama bin Laden was shot and killed. The soldiers took his body and some important documents from the house. Later, the U.S. government announced his death to the world. After his death, Al-Qaeda continued to exist, but it became weaker. Some members started new terrorist groups in different countries. Terrorism did not stop, but Osama bin Laden's death was an important moment in history. His actions led to wars, new security measures, and changes in international politics. Today, many people still remember his name when they talk about terrorism and global security.